Welcome to Exquisite Stories. Please subscribe. The chandelier sparkled above the grand ballroom, casting soft golden light over the rows of black-suited men and elegantly dressed women. Crystal glasses clinked. Laughter rippled through the air. A live quartet played a delicate waltz that felt as distant to Cole Kingston as the stars above the city skyline. He stood still in the corner, gripping a glass of aged scotch, his jaw sharp, expression unreadable. His tailored tuxedo fit him like a second skin. Women glanced his way, some with open admiration, some with discreet hunger, but Cole saw none of them. His mind was elsewhere. His grandmother's voice echoed in his head. 60 days, Cole. That's all I ask. A wife on your arm, someone decent. Then the company is yours. Otherwise, it goes to your cousin Troy. Cole ground his teeth, jaw tightening at the thought of Troy Maddox slithering into Kingston Global and tearing it apart. He had built too much to watch it slip through his fingers. He would rather burn it to the ground than hand it over. So, he agreed to the terms. A marriage. A wife. A contract. He didn't need love. He didn't believe in it. He needed a signature, a face to show the world, and a loophole to secure his legacy. But there was one condition: the woman had to come from outside their toxic social circle. Someone innocent, untouched by power, politics, or profit. Someone real. Aria Blake adjusted the loose strap of her simple blue dress, feeling distinctly out of place in the luxurious lobby of Kingston Tower. Her black heels were borrowed, her makeup minimal, her curls hastily tamed. She stood awkwardly, clutching a small handbag like it could protect her from the marble floors and judging eyes. Why was she even here? The agency hadn't given her much information, just that a man needed a wife for a short-term, strictly legal arrangement. In exchange, her brother's hospital debt would be cleared. All of it. Aria didn't want to say yes. But when Michael's treatments had been paused because she couldn't afford his latest surgery, desperation won. Now, standing in the heart of wealth and power, she felt like a deer caught in headlights. Miss Blake? A deep, smooth voice made her jump. She turned and met his gaze. Cole Kingston. She recognized him instantly. His face had graced magazines, newspapers, even billboards. But in person, he was colder. Taller. Darker. His eyes were steel gray, unreadable. His aura screamed money, power, danger. He wasn't just handsome, he was commanding. Aria nodded, her voice catching in her throat. Yes. He studied her silently, eyes trailing down to her modest dress, the soft curve of her neck, her trembling hands. She wasn't like the women he was used to: no sultry confidence, no designer heels, no false eyelashes or pouty lips. She looked real. Scared. But strong in a quiet way. I'm Cole Kingston, he said finally. You understand why you're here? She swallowed. Yes. A contract marriage. 60 days. No. Emotional involvement. He raised an eyebrow at the last part. Is that a problem? Aria shook her head quickly. No. I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Do you always do things you don't want to do? She hesitated. When I have no choice, yes. Something flickered in his gaze. Surprise? Respect? He stepped closer. There are rules, he said. This will be public. There will be photos, appearances, interviews. You'll have to move in with me. Share a room. Her heart skipped. A room? You'll be my wife. At least to the outside world. Aria's voice was small. Will you expect anything from me? Cole leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. Physically? Her cheeks burned. No, he said coolly. This isn't that kind of arrangement. You're safe. Relief flooded her, though her heart still pounded. He was too close. Too intense. And yet, a strange calm settled in her chest. He extended a folder. You can walk away now. Or sign this, and everything we discussed goes into effect. Including your brother's medical debt. It'll be gone by morning. Arya took the folder with trembling fingers. She thought of Michael. Of his tired smile. Of the bills piled on her tiny kitchen table. She picked up the pen and signed. The wedding was arranged within a week. It was private. Luxurious. Fast. Cole stood at the altar in a black-on-black suit, expression unreadable. Arya wore a white satin dress that barely hugged her frame. She looked like a porcelain doll, fragile, untouchable. There were no vows. No kisses. Just signatures, photographers, and a quick exchange of rings. Afterward, they drove to his penthouse in silence. When the elevator doors opened to the 52nd floor, Arya stepped into a world she had never imagined, floor-to-ceiling glass, velvet rugs, abstract art, a skyline that shimmered like a dream. "This is your home now," he said. "Use whatever you need." She nodded, suddenly aware of how alone they were. He led her to a sleek, dimly lit bedroom. "You'll stay here." She hesitated. "And you?" He gave a half-smile, the first crack in his armor. "Next room." Relief and something else, disappointment, twisted in her stomach. "Why?" He turned to leave, but paused at the door. "You don't have to be afraid of me, Arya. This arrangement doesn't mean I own you." She blinked. "You're not a possession," he added quietly. "You're a person. And I'll treat you like one." Then he was gone. The days passed in a strange rhythm. Arya woke to the scent of coffee and sunlight pouring through silk curtains. Cole was always up early, already dressed, already working. They rarely ate together. They appeared in public only when necessary, charity events, board dinners, one awkward interview on a talk show where Cole's hand brushed hers and her heart raced for hours afterward. But something began to shift. She caught him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. His gaze softer now. Curious. She noticed his kindness, quiet, subtle. The way he instructed staff not to disturb her. The way he left books on her nightstand he thought she'd like. The way he offered his jacket one cold night without saying a word. One evening, they sat on the balcony in silence, the city stretched out like a sea of diamonds. "Why me?" she asked suddenly. He didn't answer right away. Then. "Because you weren't trying to impress me. Or seduce me. You didn't want anything." "I wanted to save my brother," she said softly. He looked at her, really looked. "That's different. That's love. That's rare." She turned away, heart racing. The wind brushed her skin. "You're different too," she whispered. He didn't respond, but his hand brushed hers. And he didn't pull away. One night changed everything. She woke from a nightmare, gasping. Her bedroom door creaked open and Cole appeared, shirtless, his eyes worried. "You okay?" She nodded, wiping her face. "Just a dream." He hesitated. "Do you want me to stay?" She nodded again. He sat at the edge of her bed, silent. "Cole? Have you ever been in love?" He looked at her. "No. I don't think I believe in it." She nodded, curling beneath the sheets. "Me neither." But the way he looked at her, gentle, unsure, made her question everything. He stood to leave, but she reached for his hand. "Please, stay." And just before sleep took her, she whispered, "I've never been with anyone." He stiffened. She added quickly, "Not because I was waiting. I just never trusted anyone enough." His voice was hoarse. "You trust me?" "Yes," she whispered. A long pause. "I won't break that," he murmured. "Even if it kills me." Cole Kingston had never been one to lose control. He'd built an empire from sheer willpower, silencing emotion with logic, burying every ounce of vulnerability beneath stone walls and steel resolve. But since Arya Blake entered his world, nothing made sense anymore. She trusted him. He could ruin that with a single slip. Cole closed his eyes and turned away, silently counting backward from 100 until sleep claimed him. Sunlight poured through the drapes, soft and golden. For a moment, she forgot where she was, until she turned and found herself nestled beside Cole Kingston, her head against his chest, his arm protectively around her waist. Her breath caught. He was still asleep, his face relaxed, lips slightly parted. It was the first time she had seen him without a mask, without sharp edges. Vulnerable. Beautiful. She moved to shift away. His eyes cracked open slowly, sleepy and unreadable. Then awareness hit, sitting up. Sorry, he muttered, clearing his throat. Instinct. She sat up too, embarrassed. It's fine. I didn't mean to. You were scared, he said quietly, rubbing his eyes. I should have kept my distance. Her voice was small. But you didn't. He looked at her. And she didn't look away. Breakfast that morning was strangely quiet. Cole sat at the end of the long dining table, flipping through his tablet, while Arya picked at a plate of eggs and toast. Neither spoke. Until she finally said, I was serious last night. He looked up. About what? Never having been with anyone. His jaw flexed. You don't need to explain yourself. I just don't want you thinking I'm broken, she said softly. You're not, he said firmly. You're just untouched by the world in a way I'll never be again. Their eyes locked. And something shifted. By the second week, the lines between fake and real began to blur. At charity galas, Cole's hand lingered at the small of her back longer than necessary. During interviews, he smiled when she spoke, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The press began to eat it up. Kingston's cold heart finally melted? The Cinderella wife, who is Arya Blake? Is it just business or a love story in disguise? But what the world didn't know was that behind closed doors, Cole found himself drawn to her like gravity. She was quiet but strong. Soft-spoken, but fiercely intelligent. She laughed at his dry sarcasm, challenged his thinking, and never once tried to use his wealth to her advantage. She didn't want his money. She wanted freedom. Security. Her brother healthy and whole. And that made her dangerous. Because Cole was beginning to want things he'd buried long ago. It was late one evening when things began to unravel. Arya stood barefoot in the kitchen, wearing one of his oversized shirts, her curls pulled into a messy bun, dancing to soft music while making hot chocolate. Cole paused at the doorway, watching her with a look that could have scorched glass. You're humming, he said. She jumped. I didn't hear you come in. I noticed. She offered him a mug. He took it. Silence. And then, softly, you look comfortable. She smiled. Is that okay? It's dangerous. She blinked. Why? He stepped closer, voice low. Because every time I see you like this, I forget it's just a contract. Her heart raced. She placed the mug down. Maybe it doesn't have to be. He froze. Arya. I know we said no emotions, etc., but I feel things when I look at you, Cole. When you're near, I feel safe. I feel wanted. You are wanted. Then why do you hold back? His voice was tight. Because if I touch you, I won't stop. And that wasn't part of the deal. She moved closer, so close their breaths mingled. What if I want to change the deal? His control. No, he rasped. Not like this. Not until I'm sure. Sure of what? That I'm not just obsessed. She blinked. Obsessed? His voice cracked. I think about you all the time. The way you walk. The way you bite your lip when you're nervous. The sound of your laugh. I built walls my whole life, Arya, and you walked in like you were meant to break them. Silence stretched between them. And then. I'm not afraid of your obsession, Cole, she said gently. I'm afraid of losing you before I even get to have you. He stared at her like she was something holy. Then without another word, he pulled her into his arms and held her. Just held her. Like letting go would shatter something too fragile to name. Later that night, Arya lay awake beside him, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. She could feel the tension still coiled in his body, even in sleep. He hadn't made another move, and neither had she. But something had changed. He no longer treated her like a contract. He treated her like something precious. 3 days later, Cole walked into his office to find a manila envelope on his desk. Inside were photographs. Arya. Meeting with a man. Hugging him. Smiling. At first, Cole's heart stopped. Rage surged in his chest. Then he flipped to the last page, Troy Maddox's signature. And a note. Still think she's untouched? You were always easy to fool, cousin. Cole's jaw clenched. Blood roared in his ears. But he didn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Still, doubt crept in like poison. Was Arya playing him all along? Arya was sitting in the garden behind the Kingston estate, curled on a bench with a book in her lap. The early evening light painted her skin in gold, her natural curls wild and free around her shoulders. She heard the footsteps before she saw him. Hey, she said, smiling gently. You're home early. He didn't respond. Her smile faded. Is something wrong? Cole held up the envelope and dropped it beside her on the bench. She glanced at it, confused. When she saw the photos, her lips parted in shock. Where did you get these? Does it matter? His voice was cold. Controlled. Too controlled. That's Troy. My brother's doctor. He's been treating him for. I know who he is. I had him checked. Then you know we're not. I don't know anything anymore, Cole cut her off sharply. I brought you into my home. My life. I trusted you. Her voice cracked. And I trusted you not to believe the worst about me. The silence between them was suffocating. I haven't even touched you, she whispered. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wanted to do it right. I wanted to wait until I was sure you felt something for me, not just obsession or lust. His jaw tightened. I never lied to you, Cole. I told you I was a virgin because I am. That man is a friend, nothing more. He stared at her. And for the first time since they met, she saw something vulnerable behind his eyes. Fear. I'm not like other men, Arya, he said hoarsely. When I fall all the way. Her heart ached. Then fall with me. Don't push me away because of a lie someone else fed you. He didn't answer. And then he turned and walked away. The days that followed were cold. Cole withdrew completely, coming home late, barely speaking to her. And Arya didn't beg. She gave him space, but her heart cracked a little more each time he passed her in silence. Until one night, the silence broke. She was in the kitchen, unable to sleep, when he walked in. His tie was loose, eyes bloodshot from whiskey and emotion. I fired the PI, he said suddenly. She turned. What? I fired him. And I confronted Troy. He said you never hid your relationship. That he's your brother's godfather. That you're like a niece to him. Tears burned her eyes. So, you believe me now? He nodded, eyes haunted. And I hate myself for doubting you. Arya stepped closer. Then why are you still so far away? I was scared, he admitted. You make me feel things I've spent my whole life avoiding. Like what? Like I don't deserve you. She reached for his hand. Maybe you don't. But I'm not perfect either, Cole. I came into this contract to save someone I love. I didn't expect to fall for the man I married. His eyes widened. You've fallen for me? She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Completely. He grabbed her then, hands shaking. I don't want the contract anymore, he whispered. Then tear it up, she replied. And keep me for real. Are you sure? He asked, voice husky. Yes, she breathed. Just, be gentle. He was. I think I'm in love with you, Arya. Her heart stopped. Then beat faster. Because she knew, deep down, she loved him too, but outside their bedroom walls, trouble was brewing. A woman in stilettos and blood-red lipstick stormed into Kingston Enterprises the next day. Tessa Monroe. Cole's ex-fiancée. And she was holding a paternity test, with Cole's name on it. Arya stood in front of the mirror in the Grand Kingston bathroom, her fingertips grazing the faint marks Cole had left on her skin last night, different. Real. The contract might have brought them together, but what happened between? Mrs. Kingston, Marta, the housekeeper, knocked gently on the door. There's a lady asking for Mr. Cole. She said it's urgent. Arya blinked. What's her name? She said her name is Tessa Monroe. The smile vanished from Arya's lips. Tessa Monroe. Cole's ex-fiancée. The one he never spoke about, except to say it ended in betrayal. Why was she here now? Downstairs, Cole had just stepped into the living room when Tessa spun around to face him, her heels clicking against the marble tiles like threats. You've been dodging my calls, Cole, she snapped, striding toward him. Because there's nothing left to talk about, he said coldly. Tessa smirked and pulled a folded piece of paper from her bag. I think this says otherwise. He took it without flinching, eyes scanning the document. His chest tightened. Paternity test. His name was printed at the top. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. His head snapped up. What the hell is this? Tessa's eyes glinted. You tell me. I gave birth 9 months ago. And before you met your little virgin wife, you and I had one last night together. That's a lie, he growled. You DG me that night. I don't remember a damn thing. Well, she whispered, stepping closer, that doesn't change the fact that you're the father of my child. Arya stepped into the room just in time to hear that last part. Her heart shattered into a million invisible pieces. That night, Cole found Arya on the rooftop, arms crossed against the cold wind, staring out at the city skyline. Don't, she said without turning. He paused. Don't what? Don't come closer. I'm trying to understand how I went from being your wife to the woman standing between you and your real family. Cole cursed under his breath and stepped forward anyway. Don't say that. You are my family. I'm not the one with a child, Cole, she said, finally facing him, eyes glossy with unshed tears. He flinched. I didn't know. I swear. Tessa, she drugged me that night. I thought she was out of my life for good. But she's not, Arya whispered. And now there's a baby involved. Are you going to ignore that child? No. But I'm not going back to her, either. I want you. Only you. She looked at him for a long moment. Even if you're a father? I didn't ask for this, he said brokenly. And if it turns out that the test was manipulated, I'll fight it. I just need you to believe in me, Arya. Like you did before. Arya took a shaky breath. I want to believe you. I do. But I'm not just some contract anymore. I'm a woman who gave you everything. And I don't take that for granted, he murmured, pulling her into his arms. She let him hold her. But her heart remained tangled in doubt. The next day, Cole arranged a private meeting with his lawyer and a second paternity test. No tricks. No labs that could be bribed. He also had a discreet investigation launched into Tessa. And what they found shocked him. Tessa had filed similar paternity suits against 2 other high-profile men. Both had been settled out of court due to reputational damage. She thrived on scandal. Manipulation. And now she wanted Cole back, through the baby. But she had underestimated one thing. Cole was no longer the cold, lonely billionaire she'd abandoned. He had someone, worth fighting for now. Meanwhile, Arya visited her brother at the rehabilitation center. Julian was improving, walking more, smiling again, but he noticed her dimmed glow. "What's wrong, Ari?" She forced a smile. "Nothing, Jules." He grabbed her hand. "Liar. You only lie when it's about the guy. Did he hurt you?" "No," her voice cracked. "But maybe I let myself fall too fast." Julian frowned. "Didn't you say he changed since you married him?" "He did. But his past came back. And now he might have a child with a woman who hates me." Julian's gaze darkened. "If he truly loves you, he'll make you his priority. Not her. Not anyone else." Arya leaned in and hugged him tight. She hoped Cole would make the right choice. 2 nights later, Cole walked into their bedroom with a folder in hand. Arya sat up. "What's that?" "The truth," he said, placing it on the bed. Inside was the second test result, signed, sealed, verified by a government-recognized lab. Probability of paternity, 0%. Arya gasped. "It's not your baby?" He nodded. "Tessa lied. Again. She thought dragging a child into the mess would make me come back to her." Tears spilled down Arya's cheeks, not from sadness, but relief. "I love you," Cole said quietly. "Not because you're my wife on paper. But because you brought light into my life when I didn't even realize how dark it had become." She threw herself into his arms, sobbing against his chest. "I love you too," she whispered. And this time, he murmured, pulling a ring box from his pocket, "I want to marry you for real. No contract. No time limit." Arya stared at the ring. It wasn't grand. It wasn't flashy. But it was real. "Yes," she breathed. 1,000 times yes. But just when it seemed their happiness had finally begun, a reporter snapped a photo of their private engagement dinner. And the next morning, the headline blared across social media. "Cole Kingston's virgin bride was once a maid at his hotel. Is their love built on lies?" The past Arya had buried was now on every screen in the country. And someone, somewhere, was determined to tear her down. Arya stood frozen in the middle of the living room, the tablet shaking in her grip as the headline blazed across the screen. "Cole Kingston's virgin bride was once a maid at his hotel. Is their love built on lies?" Dozens of articles followed underneath. Gossip blogs. Financial tabloids. Even credible business news sites. The world now knew. Her past. Her truth. Twisted and broadcasted as if it were scandalous. "Who did this?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. Cole appeared behind her, his jaw clenched so tightly it looked like it might crack. He'd seen the articles, too. "They released photos of you in your old maid uniform," he muttered, eyes burning with fury. "They even used your employment records at the Grand Crest Hotel." Arya turned to him. "That file, it was locked." "You said only the board had access." "I said only I had access," Cole replied coldly. "Which means someone hacked my internal system or had help from the inside." Her eyes searched his. "You think it was Tessa? Or someone on the board who doesn't want you to stay?" he muttered. "This was a targeted hit. Not just to embarrass you, this is about control." He wrapped his arms around her. "I don't care what anyone says, Arya. I'm not letting them take you away from me." But Arya wasn't afraid for herself. She was afraid for him. By noon, the media frenzy had escalated. Social media was on fire. #GoldDiggerArya trended for 3 hours straight. Armchair analysts speculated she had seduced Cole to escape poverty. Old hotel guests claimed they'd seen her eyeing rich clients. A lie built upon fragments of truth. And every word crushed Arya's spirit. Cole's publicist begged him to release a statement distancing himself. Shareholders panicked. Stock prices dipped. But Cole stood firm. No press release, he said. No damage control. The only thing I'm doing is telling the truth. You sure about that, Cole? His publicist pleaded. The board won't like it. They can shove it, he snapped. And then, he turned to Arya. I'm holding a press conference tomorrow, he said gently. And I want you by my side. Her lips parted. Me? He nodded. If you're ready. If you're not. I'll do it alone. Arya hesitated. Her whole life, she had hidden her past to avoid judgment. Now the world knew. But hiding hadn't protected her. Maybe stepping into the storm was the only way to reclaim her power. I'll be there, she said. The next morning, cameras flashed as Cole Kingston stepped onto the stage in the Kingston Enterprises Media Hall. His navy blue suit was crisp, his jaw square with resolve. Beside him stood Arya, poised, graceful, no makeup, and in a simple white blouse. My name is Cole Kingston, he began, and I want to address the rumors. The crowd silenced instantly. Yes, my wife, Arya, used to work as a maid. At my hotel. That's where I met her. Not in a ballroom. Not in some arranged marriage. But in real life. He turned to her, his eyes soft. She was not just a maid. She was smart, kind, and more dignified than most people sitting in this room. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I entered into a contract marriage with her, yes. But not because she begged me. I begged her. And along the way, I fell in love with her. Gasps. More whispers. Arya is my wife. And the only lie here is the one being told by people too afraid to admit a maid might be worth more than a millionaire. Cameras snapped. Reporters shouted questions. Arya, is it true you were a virgin before marriage? Did you marry for money? Do you regret hiding your past? Arya stepped up to the mic. Her voice, though calm, rang with fire. I never lied. I never pretended. I married Cole as part of a business deal. But I fell in love with him when he treated me like no man ever had, with respect. She paused, her gaze sharp. I was a maid. And I'm not ashamed of that. I cleaned rooms to pay for my brother's medical bills. I survived. And now, she smiled faintly. I thrive. The room fell quiet. Not because she shouted. But because she stood tall. By that evening, the press coverage shifted. What was meant to shame her became her power. Arya was hailed as the maid who married a billionaire, and won his heart. Talk shows debated her strength. Young women praised her honesty. Even Cole's investors began to rally behind them again. But the storm hadn't passed completely. Because that night, Cole's assistant handed him a confidential report from their private investigator. It's Tessa, he said grimly. She's the one who leaked Arya's past to the media. But there's more. He placed another folder on Cole's desk. 2 board members were involved. They authorized access to your private server in exchange for a cut of Tessa's trust fund, which, if you returned to her, she would regain full access to. Cole's blood ran cold. So she was trying to sabotage Arya and manipulate me into coming back? Exactly. Cole's hands balled into fists. Not this time. He met with the board 2 days later. Calm. Ready. I have reason to believe 2 of you were involved in the illegal release of my wife's personal records, he said. I have evidence. And I've already filed charges. The silence was deafening. Cole continued, effective immediately, I'm buying out your shares and removing you from the board. You can't do that. I can, he cut in, because I now own 62% of this company. They stared at him. And for the first time, saw him as more than a powerful CEO. They saw a man ready to burn empires for love. Later that night, Arya walked into the candlelit living room to find Cole on one knee. Again. This time, with no cameras. No contracts. Just him. I married you for business, he said. I fell for you by accident. But now I want you, forever, on purpose. Her heart pounded. Yes, she whispered again, voice trembling with joy. He slipped the real ring on her finger. And this time, there were no secrets. Just love. It should have been the beginning of a new life. After the press conference, after the second proposal, after Cole tore down every wall that stood between them, Arya finally believed in peace. Until a stranger showed up at the Kingston estate. Tall. Slim. Eyes too familiar to forget. Arya. She froze at the sound of the voice. Slowly, she turned toward the security guard at the gate, standing beside a woman in her late 40s. She says she's your mother. Cole watched from the living room window as Arya stood rooted at the edge of the estate, her face pale, hands trembling. Who is she? He asked gently. My mother, Arya whispered, voice hollow. She left when I was 13. I never saw her again. He moved toward her, resting a hand on her back. Do you want to see her? I don't know. The woman introduced herself as Diana Morris, a name Arya hadn't heard in over a decade. Once beautiful. Still sharp-tongued. Her perfume smelled the same, floral and too strong. I heard you married rich, Diana said, settling into one of the guest sofas like she belonged. Didn't take you long to move up. Arya flinched. Why are you here? Diana smirked. I need help. And I figured my daughter, the billionaire's wife, might finally be useful. Cole stiffened. But Arya raised a hand. You disappeared for 12 years. I had my reasons. You left me alone with an abusive uncle who, her voice cracked, who nearly destroyed me. Diana blinked, then looked away. I didn't know. You didn't ask. Arya snapped. Silence. Cole reached out and gently took her hand. She held on. I'm not giving you money, Arya said firmly. Diana sighed. You don't understand, Arya. They'll come after me. I borrowed from the wrong people. If I don't pay, I'll be in real danger. Arya looked away. I'm sorry. But I can't help you. And then Diana said something that made Cole freeze. Then maybe I should tell the press what really happened the night your father died. That night, Cole found Arya curled up in the garden, her arms wrapped around her knees, tears soaking her blouse. Arya, he said softly, kneeling beside her. I lied to you, she whispered. About my father. He waited. I said he died in an accident. But, it wasn't that simple. She looked up at him, broken. He was drunk. Angry. He tried to hurt me. I was 10. And I pushed him. He fell, he hit his head. He never woke up. Cole's chest ached. She wasn't confessing murder. She was reliving trauma. Your mother knew? He asked. Yes. She told me we had to lie. Said no one would believe a little girl. She promised we'd leave together. But she packed her things and disappeared that night. Cole pulled her into his arms. You didn't kill your father. He made choices. And you protected yourself. She sobbed into his chest. And now she's using that to blackmail me, Arya whispered. If I don't give her money, she'll tell the world I'm a killer. You're not, Cole said, brushing her hair back. But if she wants war, she's picked the wrong billionaire. The next day, Diana returned to the estate with a lawyer. She didn't expect to find Cole and Arya waiting, with their own attorney and a signed restraining order. I suggest you read this, Cole said coldly. You think this paper scares me? Diana scoffed. Cole smiled thinly. No. But the second one will. He handed her a folder. Inside were photos. Bank statements. Records of her criminal debts. Names of loan sharks she had stolen from. I had you investigated, Diana. And if you ever go near my wife or try to leak anything about her past, he said, voice low and dangerous, I'll make sure you're not running from loan sharks. You'll be running from Interpol. Diana's face drained of color. You think you're above me, she hissed at Arya. Arya stood. Calm. Steady. No. I just finally know who I am. Days passed. The media tried to dig, but there was nothing more to find. Diana vanished again, this time for good. Cole took Arya to the beach house outside Lagos. Away from the headlines. Away from the scars. They walked barefoot in the sand, her hair blowing in the wind. You protected me, Arya whispered. You saved me first, Cole replied. She turned to him, smiling softly. What if I told you I'm ready now? For what? To take off the shield. To stop running. To be your wife. Fully. His breath caught. I love you, he said, his voice rough. I love you too. Not as part of a contract. Not out of duty. But with fire and gentleness. With hearts open. And scars healing. For the first time in years, she felt safe. For the first time, she felt free. Good morning, Mrs. Kingston, he whispered, voice raspy from sleep. A smile crept across her lips. Good morning, husband. What time is it? She murmured. Who cares? He replied. We have nowhere to be but here. And he was right. The world outside could wait. Today was just for them. Later that afternoon, as they walked hand in hand along the shoreline, Arya paused and stared at the horizon. Waves crashed against the rocks in the distance. Seagulls circled above, calling out to the wind. She bit her lip, suddenly nervous. There's something I've been thinking about, she said. Cole stopped walking. What is it? The contract, it ends in a few days. He tensed slightly but didn't let go of her hand. And, he asked. I was thinking, she turned to face him. Maybe we should tear it up. He raised a brow. You want out? No, she said quickly. I want in. For real. No contracts. No timelines. Just us. His heart surged. His hand reached into his pocket, and to Arya's surprise, he pulled out a folded piece of paper, the original marriage agreement. I've been carrying this around for weeks, he said, handing it to her. She unfolded it slowly. It was already torn. Down the middle. Cole smiled. I knew the moment you let me hold you after that night in the garden, that the contract didn't matter anymore. She threw her arms around him, laughing. You're such a sap. Only for you. Back in Lagos, the Kingston Empire was abuzz. A new charity project was announced, one that would focus on providing scholarships and shelters for girls who had suffered abuse. Arya's idea. Cole's funding. They stood together at the launch event, hands entwined, facing cameras no longer as a facade, but as partners. Mrs. Kingston, a reporter asked, what inspired this initiative? Arya took the mic and smiled. Because I was once a girl without a voice. And now, I have one. And I want to use it for others. Applause erupted. Cole looked at her with quiet admiration. The woman who had once hidden in the shadows now stood tall in the spotlight. His obsession had become his pride. But love, true love, wasn't just made of big gestures and public speeches. It was in the small moment. The way Arya hummed while painting in her studio. The way Cole brought her mango slices at midnight. The way their eyes met across rooms and said 1,000 things without a word. One night, while watching a movie, Cole suddenly paused it and turned to her. I've been thinking, he said. She frowned. That's always dangerous. He chuckled. I want to take you somewhere. Where? He grinned. To meet my mother. Her eyes widened. You told me she lives in Scotland. She does, he nodded. But she's been asking to meet you. She said she saw you on the news and called me to say I've never looked so happy. Arya's heart squeezed. She sounds lovely. She'll love you. Just like I do. Scotland was a dream. Castles and lakes. Lush hills and quiet towns. Cole's mother, Eleanor Kingston, welcomed Arya with warm arms and tearful eyes. She served them tea, shared embarrassing childhood stories about Cole, and called Arya my daughter without hesitation. I always knew he'd fall hard one day, Eleanor said as she and Arya walked in the garden. But I never imagined he'd be lucky enough to find someone like you. Arya blushed. Thank you, ma'am. Call me Mum, Eleanor interrupted, squeezing her hand. You're family now. The next morning, as Arya stood on the balcony of Eleanor's estate, Cole approached her with a velvet box in hand. I know we're already married, he said, opening it, revealing a new ring. This one not for show. Not for contract. But this time, I want it to be real. Arya gasped as he went down on one knee, the Scottish sunrise bathing them in golden light. Will you marry me again? No contract. No conditions. Just forever? Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. Yes, Cole. 1,000 times, yes. 1 year later. The church was small. Intimate. No reporters. No paparazzi. Just love. Arya wore a gown of lace and satin. Her hair was pinned with pearls. Cole stood at the altar, looking at her like she was made of stars. They exchanged vows, not written by lawyers, but by hearts. I promise to love you on your worst days, Cole said, voice thick. To protect your dreams, and never stop earning your love. And I promise to trust you, Arya replied, smiling through tears. To fight with you, not against you. And to never let fear silence my heart again. This wasn't a billionaire's game. This was the real thing. Arya Kingston stood before a class of young girls, sharing her story at a local foundation event. I thought love had to come with conditions, she told them. But then I met a man who showed me that love, true love, isn't earned through perfection. It's given freely. It heals. From the back, Cole watched her speak, his eyes glowing with pride. His accidental obsession had become his eternal flame. And now, she wasn't just his virgin wife. She was his everything.